everyone, welcome back to the SAICE CEO Podcast. Today's guest is someone whose work has touched millions of lives in South Africa and in the world around water and sanitation. We are joined today by Neil Macleod. He's an engineer, he's a pioneer, he's an innovator, and he's a leader in our industry. He's also won the SAICE Gold Medal recently, which is the highest honor that our institution bestows upon an individual, as well as the WIFIO Medal for Engineering Excellence, which is an international recognition. Neil, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm so honored to actually interview you.
Yeah, that's all right. You can be a big
So tell me about your journey. Like, where did you study engineering? What made you study engineering? And just your background in general.
So it goes back to my childhood. I've always had an interest in water. I used to play with mud in the garden, make my mother very unhappy, mess up the garden and things. And then I had a father who was a civil engineer.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
He was also president of SAICE.
Oh wow.
And used to tell me, don't become an engineer. There's no money. And we were a very poor family. We never had a car until I was in high school. Used to catch buses and walk. And he just said to me, don't do it. But something in me just attracted me to engineering. And eventually I said to my parents, because they couldn't afford to pay for me to go to university, I'm going to do engineering. And I got a bursary and went to UKZN, and then my father was very supportive. So I studied at UKZN, as it was called then, at Town University. And then the bursary that I got from the municipality said I had to work for them for 4 years. So then I went into the municipality to work and went into water, of course. And every engineer likes to build their monuments. So I designed reservoirs and supervised construction and structures and water pipelines and everything. And that led me to realize that there was more to engineering than just building things. There's a community or there's a mission behind engineering, improving people's quality of life. And so I left the design office, which was like where everybody had to be, and went into the operations side. So I went down into the backyard and joined the plumbers and the electricians, and people thought I was crazy. Because this new post opened up as the operations manager post. And I thought, let me go and see what's going on. And that really opened my eyes to see just what was going on in communities and what the real problems were, and dealing with not just things, but people.
Yes.
And I used to find when I was, and I went in as a manager, and I'd do one thing with one person, and it would work wonderfully, and I'd do the same thing with another person. It was a disaster. And I realized that my engineering qualification didn't help me to manage finances or people. So I went back and did an MBA, which changed my life. And then I learned things like situation leadership. People are different, and you can't treat everybody the same way. Tell, sell, participate, delegate, depending on maturity. And that transitioned me into then moving up in the management situation. Until when was it, 1992, Mandela was released. And the city at that time said, look, there's big change coming. And you can see change as a threat, or you can see it as an opportunity. And what happened was eventually the city said, we've got to work differently. We've got to create utilities, businesses, and have people that have got a management qualification and an engineering degree. And so I was offered the job, took over the design office, and we started running a water and sanitation business. And the challenge was, look, there's 3 million people in this metro. 1 million fantastic services, 1 million like Kwamashu, Mlazi. The water was running down the streets. People were living in houses that they thought were a swamp. It was just leaks, sewage in houses. And there were 1 million people in the rural areas with no services. And they said to me, your challenge, your job description is sort out the 3 million, the 1 millions. Get the million with nothing water, get the million with 4 services, sort it out, and keep the others happy. And that really motivated me, because now you were going to make a real difference to 2 million people.
That is beautiful, because the reason I did civil engineering was seeing my grandmother when she was in her 70s or so going to an outside toilet that bucket system that used to be there in the townships, and not having a flushable water system, a waterborne system. And that motivated me actually to do civil engineering. Of course, by the time I finished, they already had the waterborne sewer and everything within their own houses. But that's such a beautiful mission, and I really relate to that. But you can continue.
So yeah, now having to run as a business, and the revenue from selling water and providing sewage services had to be used to now expand the network. And we realized that people needed services promptly. It became particularly important in 2008 when we had a cholera outbreak. Up until then, I could convince the politicians to provide water services to people. So we rolled out water incredibly at a huge rate. So all these rural communities, we sorted out the leaks. All we did then was put more polluted water into communities. And then there was the cholera outbreak. 28 people died, thousands got sick. Then it was easy to convince the politicians that we needed to invest in sanitation. But
so did this result in a policy for eThekwini in particular?
Yes. So what happened was, with the water one, in 1996, now we were rolling out the water to the informal settlements. I started asking my staff, because this is a team thing, it's not just me, right?
Yes.
And right until then, I had an amazing team of people. So we used to have discussions. What's going on out there? What are the issues? And they were saying, these people are going to stores and buying water in 20-litre containers and paying 10 times what the people that get piped water to their houses would pay. And I said to my people, go and find out how much water they would need to live, because they were taking a 20-litre home, carrying it. And I said, just show them an oil drum, 220 litres, show them a container, say, what do you think you could live on in your family? And they said the 200 litres would be enough. So then we innovated and said, how can we provide water to the informal settlements that they get 200 litres every day? And that 200 litres became the 6 kilolitres. And what happened was the president in Mbeki came to see what we were doing with sanitation. Because as I said, sanitation was too expensive to put pipe sewers in. It was going to cost something like 7 billion rand to do it, and we didn't have the money. We said, what can we do as an interim? What will people want? So if you're running a business, you do market survey. So we went to Nielsen, this guy, Percy and John, go and find out what it is people think about when you say toilet. They didn't come back and say it's where I go and get rid of my excrete. They said it's a place where I go to read, to pray, to pray, to sing, to get away from my partner and the children. Right? It's a place of refuge. And what were we providing? Pit toilets, dark holes, and the water we wanted, the plastic was clean and it was safe to use. We were building remote toilets in the gardens of these houses, or the backyards, that stank, that were dark, where you couldn't read, where you could see what you just deposited down the hole. So we said, we've got to change. So what do we do? So I went to the university and said, we need a research partnership. Will you do research for me so we can develop solutions that will be acceptable? The university said to me, well, we've got lots of students that want to do postgrad. So yes, it's a partnership. So the city then agreed to provide, I think it was started 2 million a year, to pay to do research. So the students did the research, whether it was, what do Muslim people think about reused water? Is it against their beliefs? How safe is recycled water? There's a treatment process we found called DWATS. How does it work? So they did the research, they got their doctorates and their masters, and we took the research and used it to innovate.
Wow.
So it was a partner, and it still continues to this day.
That is amazing.
I think it's gone up to more than 3 million a year now. In my time with that partnership, I think 71 students graduated with postgraduate degrees.
Wow.
It used to make the professor, he's died, cross, because we used to take the results of the research before the students published, and they'd say, you can't use this because it's mess up but we did it discreetly. So we took the lessons and we applied.
So tell me what are some of the solutions that came out of that from a sanitation perspective?
From an affordability point of view, we used urine diversion toilets, where you separate the urine from the feces, which means that the solids dry out quickly. And
yes.
So we built these urine diverting toilets, which were clean, which had a proper toilet on them, so you could separate the person from their waste. You could have light. And we used to do this market research that I talked about. It had an 87% acceptance. So what it meant was people accepted it generally. They didn't like it as they preferred. They still wanted a flushing toilet, but it was good. It was far better than a pit toilet. And we rolled out, I think we installed 90,000 of those toilets in a very few years. That's one of the reasons why we won the Stockholm Industry Water Award, for bringing services to 1 million people in 7 or 8 years. But there's so much behind just bringing services. I remember when the people said that the 200 litres a day was enough, how we're going to make it happen. So what we did was we worked out a process of manifolds where you could connect 40 houses to one manifold. You tell the shack driver, you've got to get from your shack to here, and you'll get your water. And we had people called water bailiffs who used to go and open that in the morning. They all had meters and would fill the 200 litre tanks. So if there were 40 tanks, then you had to have 8 kilolitres go through, and then you knew nobody was stealing the water, and you turn it off. But what happened? People started bribing or encouraging the opener to forget to turn the tap off. So then we had to design what we call water bailiffs, computer gadgets, which are still used to this day, water management devices, where you can program it to open the water at a certain time, 5 o'clock in the morning, let 200 litres out and shut. And the next day it opens again, so you get your 6 millilitres. They became very useful in water crises. So that's how the innovation happens. You have a problem, you sit together and talk, and somebody has an idea and somebody else builds on it a bit, and eventually you get a solution.
I love that.
And you try.
Is that what you did as well when you had the Cape Town Day Zero looming by and they asked you to come in as a consultant?
So, that kind of thing, it sounds very arrogant, but I always said to people, because I was asked to do this kind of thing a lot around the world, and there's a problem, please God help me. I always used to say, and still do, if I'm going to go there, nobody must know I'm there.
Okay.
I don't know how you found out that I'd be there, but the story was that I'm not here. So I used to go into these places, sometimes for 2 days every 2 weeks, especially after I retired. And from the lessons that I've learned around the world, I was able to say to them, well, you can try this, or you can try that, or you can try that. And then sometimes it's crazy, but, and this is not just a South African thing, the technical people knew what had to be done. Sometimes I didn't have to tell them, but they couldn't convince the politician.
Yes.
But you know what they say in the Bible, a prophet in his own land.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I would say, well, I'll go and talk to the mayor. And the son, yeah, that's fine. You can do it. And I'd go back and say, okay guys, my ideas are approved. And I'd get so angry, but that's what we've been saying for so long. And now you come and you get listened to. So they don't know I'm here, so it's fine. So the big one with Cape Town was that there were 100,000 customers that were using more than the 20 kilolitres, which is what they needed to use to get the consumption down to a point that the dams wouldn't go empty. Mm-hmm. And I said to them, in Durban in 1985, I think it was when we had a crisis, we had 3% in our dams. I took the tariff that people were paying above the cap for us, which I think was 15 kilolitres a month, and I times it by 35. So I said, that means with your tariff, you've got to charge the people that use more than 20 kilolitres, which you've got to charge them 800 rand a kilolitre. What? Never do that. So that will sort those 100,000 people out. No, I've got to go and see the mayor. So the mayor agreed. But they added VAT on top of the 800 rand, so it was 900 and something. Those 100,000 people in 2 months went down to 1,000. It worked. And it was their bravery, their solution, and it worked. And so Cape Town won an international award for being one of the few cities, I think the only one that I know of, that halved their consumption without no water in the pipes. So they never did a water shedding. Yeah. They kept the water on all the time. They reduced the pressures. They did all the right things. So it's just taking what you learn from other people. It keeps you marketable and sharing the information for them to decide what they want to do.
So how did Bill and Melinda Gates find out about you, and and what work were you doing with them?
So because of our innovations, and we had asked to go to a lot of international conferences and talk about what we were doing in terms of the innovation. Like, when the president came to Durban, our president, to see what we were doing with sanitation, and heard about free basic water, which I'd introduced in 1996. For that very reason, that we'd seen people going to these shops paying 10 times the price.
Yeah.
And then we said, the 10 litres, and we said, if you look at the economics, it's costing us more to read the meter and bill those people than to just give them free water. And morally, ethically, they can't afford to pay a lot for it. Let's give them the amount that they need. 25 litres a person, eight in a family then, 6 kilolitres, which was the 200 litres. And he heard about that and he said, we must make this national policy. And he went in December 2000 and said, this is going to be the policy for the country. It's all about.
That is amazing. That was when I was a graduate engineer, actually.
So that kind of thing, talking about that, I remember having to go to the World Bank and defend it. They said it was economic heresy. And they had 200 of the economists in this room in the IFC in Washington, and their young people presented, all the whiz kids, and I was then asked to present. And the guy stood up from the bank and said, we're going to have a vote. Who agrees with Neil and who agrees with them? I'd say there were about 5 people who agreed with the economists, and I wasn't invited back for about 3 years after that. And I said, a lot of countries, they take the water. India, it was free for everybody, unlimited. We are limiting it to what you need to live, basic amount. It turned out to be the wrong quantity in the end, by the way. But it's
Is it?
Yeah, because...
Is it less or...
That's more. It's not 25 litres a person. That's for a temperate climate like Switzerland. Because I phoned the World Health people, because I was doing work with them, say, how much do people need to live? They said 25 litres. So I said 25 times 8, 200. Oh, we give you 200 litres. That's the right amount. Then we set up focus groups and user platforms where we meet with, segmented the market, and we met with people every 3 months to say, what do you like about us? What don't you like about us? And we could put things on the table. And they said, we can't survive. We've got HIV people, we've got AIDS, we've got this, we've got that. 6 kilolitres is not enough for 12 families. So I went back to World Health. They said, guys, they're saying your figures are wrong. They said, oh, South Africa. No, you tropical. No, it's not 25, it's 50. Oh, that's after about 4 years. By then government had passed the Water Services Act and made it 25 litres.
Yeah.
So we then changed the 25 to 50, and the population in a house of a poor family had gone from 8 to 6. So 6 times 50 is 300, which is 9 kilolitres. So we made it 9. It was interesting because we were only collecting 60% of our water revenue till then. When we changed it from 6 to 9, we went up to 100%. Everybody that could afford to pay paid. And nobody, I remember saying to the politicians, because they had to agree to it, which is quite a thing to ask them to do. I said, guys, nobody can say to you they can't afford to pay nothing for water. They looked at me, what? And got a Doliga bit and translation errors, and I said, well, if I charge them nothing, they can't say I can't afford it. That's good. So that's like the moral thing. And it became policy. So that's where that
national policy, I might add.
It became national in the end, But no, so I was going to conference talking about our innovations, about water meters and this and that, and water management devices and customer engagement management. And I kept meeting Gates people who were talking about water all the time. Water. I said, guys, you're wasting your money. This food, water, energy nexus is wrong. It should be sanitation, energy, foods. Because sanitation is the source of nutrients, it's a source of water, it's a source of energy. Because you can incinerate, you can recover the phosphorus to grow plants, and all the phosphorus is going into plants and going down into the bottom of the ocean. In 100 years when it runs out, there's no more. But how are we going to feed people? How are you going to grow your crops to feed the people? And your DNA, my DNA, needs phosphorus to exist. We don't exist. Yeah, so we started this thinking of sanitation, circular economy. I worked with some people in Geneva, CDC, and we promoted this concept of circular economy. And eventually, I think the Gates people got sick and tired of seeing me. And I got this call to say that somebody's coming from the US, from the foundation. They want to meet you. This was 2010. Be at the Hilton Hotel at 6 a.m. to meet someone. I thought it was going to be Bill Gates' father. Because he used to come to Africa. I used to go to Europe. So I went to the Hilton, and who walks out? Bill Gates. Hello, Neil. Go. What do you want to show me?
Wow.
And I said to him, look, I don't want your money, I want your influence, because you're hugely influential. And this is why I've been talking to your people all the time about investing in sanitation rather than water. We took him out, and then he stopped investing in water and set up the sanitation operation. And we became, Etuweni, Durban, and together with UKZ, became the test site for Gates' innovations. And out of that's come the reinvented toilet. The one now, the challenge to him was, I want a toilet that's as good as a flushing toilet but uses little or no water, that recovers the nutrients, especially the phosphorus, and can produce energy, and all that's left is a bit of liquid, which then means that the sewage systems of the future don't carry any solids, so you can reticulate people with 50mm pipes. You don't need manholes. The sewage works itself, only treats COD, it doesn't treat anything else because you've removed all the nutrients. So cost to cost, produces energy. Now you're talking about climate change and the whole economy thinking. So he invested hundreds of millions of dollars, and the prototypes are now available, and 3 companies are commercializing them right as we speak.
Oh, really?
So there'll be a toilet. It only uses half a litre of water per flush, but it does everything else. It recovers the nutrients and all the rest of it. So the embryo of the new kind of toilet is already available. And that's how we got to see Gates. They were here just before Christmas to show us, look, we've now got to, here are the companies that are going to make these toilets. So the EOS toilet was a product of that.
That is amazing. That is like such an amazing legacy, and you're so unassuming about it. You know, you're so humble about it. That is like
about that, eh?
We should be blowing your name out throughout South Africa. People should know, of the engineering quality that we produce within the country.
But you've got to remember, there's a team to it.
Yeah.
You know, I can have an idea, and then the team that I had working with me takes that and makes it into a reality. And a lot of the thinking. So I'm blending what I've been doing internationally with what they know about the practical realities of where we are. So you're grounding it, and then you, of course, the university with their research. That's why the engineering test facilities for Gates' toilets were in Durban. We used to take this wonderful building, a toilet or a product. Will it work in a township? Will it work in an informal settlement? Will people like it? Will they use it? The first one Gates built fitted in a 22-foot container. You say, you can't put 22-foot containers, that's bigger than the houses. Now it fits in the challenge was, I want something the size of a washing machine in every house. And then they start with the pop questions. But so now you recover the phosphorus in a little, it looks like a pancake. It's dried out, it's solid. What are we going to do with it? So we said, well, the refuse truck goes past every week. So they could have a box somewhere in the back of the truck. You collect the garbage and you put the pancakes in. And eventually, when phosphorus gets so expensive, people will want to sell those back to the municipality. With phosphorus prices going up as phosphorus becomes less and less available. Depends who you believe. Dana Cordell says another 50 years. The UN Food and Agriculture says in 100 years' time there'll be no phosphorus left. It's all mined. It'll be in the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, that is shocking.
It's scary.
Very scary.
So that's the kind of thinking. So that's what we got recognized for, thinking ahead. But you know, as I said, Winston Churchill used to say, you need never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yes, that's my favorite statement, actually.
And I use that so often. I've got a number of sayings I used to quote, just like that one. Einstein's, it's attributed to him, I don't know if it really is, he says that doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting
a different outcome
is insanity.
Yes.
And the other one is you cannot solve problems with the level of thinking that caused them. So we used to sit and say, guys, we've been thinking like this. It's not working. We've got to change. So let's find a new way of doing it. And that's where the innovation comes from. How can we do this, achieve this outcome in a different way? And that's where we realized, for example, communication is so important. Because if you're, and I've seen this in other places of the world, I have a diagnostics tool I use to do turnaround strategies for utilities. And one of the questions is, what do you call the people that you provide a service to? And you'd be surprised what answers you get. One organization, I won't say which continent it comes from, said that they were a nuisance. Another one said they love the technology of what they do, but they prefer not to have customers. So I said, guys, who pays your money then? You're not thinking like a business. And then you get the left wing accusing me of being neoliberal and capitalist because I say you've got to run a utility like a business, but a business with a heart. A business that's not judged on profit, because you're not allowed to make a profit as a municipal entity anyway. It's judged on performance, on how happy are your customers, how many are served, is the price affordable, what's the level of payment, which is a measure of how affordable it is. So those are the factors that you use to measure. But your thinking is about efficiency, effectiveness, about meeting customers' needs, all those factors, about being professional, about being ethical. No corruption. We are very strong on corruption. So it's thinking like a business from the one aspect, but not thinking about making a profit. So, and that's how you transform the thinking, and that's how you get the people. I was very lucky. My people caught the vision like that, and they're off. I used to say, I'm like riding a runaway horse. Oh my guys, you're pushing me. Because that's another thing. You've got to allow people to have the freedom to think. So you have a strategy, and you have a risk assessment process where you have an acceptable, tolerable risk. Guys, there's our policy. There's what we're trying to do. Every year we had a strategy session. What are the 5 things as a management structure we're going to focus on? And what is your contribution to that? Now, get out and do it. And if they achieve something and it was a success and it got international recognition and that was quite a regular thing, whoever was the initiator went to get the prize. And you know what that does to people? It kind of motivates them to say, it wasn't me or the deputy ED that goes out and gets it. And they have to come back and tell the staff what happened. It stimulates more innovation. If he was able to go to wherever and see the world, well, why can't I do the same kind of thing? So you've got to build that team ethos. It's not one person.
I love that.
It's not the ED. It's the team. I used to actually go every quarter because there were 3,000 staff in the water and sanitation team. 4 times a year, I used to go and meet in 9 areas, so there was about 300 at a time, and talk to them about our values and what they could do to enhance our service to our customers. That's and they could write to me anonymously, and then I'd go and answer the questions, then take questions.
That is true leadership.
So that's how you build a team. This is what we stand for. This is what we're trying to do. What's your role? What ideas have you got? And some of the ideas that came back were incredible. Because they're at the coalface, they're living in a shack, or they say, this is a problem. Okay, let's solve it. How would you solve it? And that's how you make the thing move forward.
So what would you say are the 3 nuggets of wisdom that you want to leave with engineers now and us facing the current circumstances that we are in South Africa currently?
That's quite a tricky one, because you can see engineering as a technical career, or you can see it as a calling, and you have to decide which one you want to do. So the one is that you just design technical stuff, and you need those kind of people. The other one is if you're going to do more than that and get into management and manage delivery, then you most probably will need more than just an engineering degree. But I would say you need to specialize. You need to focus in on a particular, for civil engineers, for example. You can't be a structural engineer and a traffic engineer and a this and a that and a that. You have to decide what is my focus and get good at it. And not just a narrow aspect of it. Because you can design the most wonderful structure that's impossible to build, or is unaffordable, or the customers don't want to use.
Exactly, and we've seen a lot of those.
So exactly. So if you have a broader perspective of what you're doing, it's not just about building something that you can say, I built that, but it's been abandoned because it was actually relevant. So specialize, think broadly than just the technical side, and you have to decide early on what aspect of the because civil engineering is a wide field.
It is, but I love what you're saying, and I think I think I can pick it up just looking at your journey that you were called to this. It's a mission for you, and I think that's how you can even push through some of the challenges that have come up and not be too overwhelmed. I mean, having to provide water for 3 million people, I mean, that must be so overwhelming. But I'm really proud of you. I don't know if it even matters. I wish that I had been under your wing. Actually, it would have been so great to work with such an engineer of such a high caliber. And I'm also proud of the innovation that you've brought in the space, the people that you've mentored, worked with, the universities as well. And I hope, Neil, will be able to continue your legacy, as the new crop of engineers in South Africa. Mm-hmm. And that people can be able to learn from, the heritage that you've passed on to all of us. So as part of SAICE, I really want to thank you. And I know you've been thanked a million times before, but it's been a real privilege for me to sit here with you this afternoon.
Oh, thank you. Thanks very much.